Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast, episode 159. This episode we have Dr. Collin Bell from Grow Certa and Mammoth P. How's it going?
Hey, Steve. Great. How are you, man?
Doing really well. It's been a long, hot week so far.
Where you're in Oklahoma this week?
Yep. New home base. So
We were in Colorado. We're in Colorado now, but we just got back from the NCIA show in San Jose. And it was a good show, and it was hot in California, in San Jose. Definitely hot.
yeah, it can definitely get pretty toasty out there.
For sure.
How's it going, Mr. Green Jeans?
All right, really good. Thanks, Steve. Hi, everybody. Glad to be here.
We also got Roger. I don't know if he's there, though.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just trying to get myself set up. I got a late start. Got here just in time. Hello, everybody. Good to see you again, Collin. And I guess we got two guests tonight. I missed the other introduction, but it'd be great to have a great show, I'm sure.
Cool. Thanks a lot for joining us a lot, Collin. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the cool new things you've been up to? You're always up to...
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's always something good here at Mammoth Microbes. And you know that we've been pushing along the microbes since our inception of Mammoth Microbes back in 2015. And we still have Mammoth P. It's going strong. I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting. It's all about team. And although we've had this one product in the market that's basically sustained all our research efforts and everything as a company, it's still going super strong, which for me goes to show that just the movement of using microbes in agriculture has never been stronger in cultivation and precision cultivation for cannabis in particular, because that's what we target. And so, having our most successful, month and quarter to date is something huge for a product that's been in the market as long as ours has. And we have just recently, and it's been a long road, launched a second product in kind of a different category. And I want to make sure it doesn't confuse our fans and people that use Mammoth P, but we got into the actual biocontrol space. And I identified that a couple of years ago, our team did, as something that's really interesting. There's a lot of pain points with using chemistry in agriculture. And although we probably won't get away from it completely for a long time across the board, this is what this company does to help promote bringing nature and natural processes to agriculture. We talk about the performance side of our company with Mammoth P, and we'll come out with some new technologies as well over time to help enhance plant health, development, and yield through maximizing plant nutrient uptake. Mammoth P targets phosphorus, and I think most of the listeners on this show understand Mammoth P. What we started thinking about a little over a year ago was how we could actually get natural solutions in the biocontrol space, because at the time we really looked at it hard and realized there weren't a lot of effective natural or organic solutions to mitigate pests. Pests are a huge problem. They're never going away. All agriculture segments are plagued with pests, and mostly chemistry is used. And in cannabis in particular, chemistry is historically being used, and with the regulations of the final product and the testing that occurs now, it's a lot of the chemistry that has historically been used is banned. And so we knew there was a need for some natural solutions. So we came out with this product. It's called Mammoth Bio Control, or we call it Mammoth MBPI. And it's pretty simple, but it's very effective. And so I think that's a great combination, simple and effective. This particular, it's a simple essential oil to speak, but it has some very fascinating properties of why it works so well. And I'll tell you about it, but it's an essential oil, pretty concentrated, but dilute it down, use it as a foliar, and it prevents and really knocks off mites. Spider mites is what we've tested on. We're currently testing on russet mites to make sure we can get that validation on the russets, but for sure spiders, thrips, spider mites that is, but thrips, it works very well, aphids, and whiteflies. So that's the data I have right now, and that's what's going on the label. On the label right now is spider mites and thrips, because that was the data we had early on. We've just gotten the validation on the other couple of pests. But it's really composed, and you'll see all the ingredients on the label. We don't hide anything, of a corn oil carrier, which is straightforward. The oil or any oil products have a suffocant property when you think about the biocontrol. And so suffocant means kind of a clogging effect. The oil is pretty viscous even when it's dilute, and it will significantly disrupt the life cycle of these pests or insects by reducing the hatchling rate success, which obviously disrupts the life cycle. And there's these things, little spinnacles in the back or the thorax of these insects, and they're just little breathe tubes. They don't really breathe out of their mouths. They have these little breathe tubes that stick out of their body, and it clogs them up. And so there's a huge suffocation aspect of these types of technologies, and it's across the board, and it works. The other aspect that's actually super cool, I think, about this particular technology is the active preventative ingredient, and it's a thyme extract, and it's not a general thyme extract, it's a specific thyme extract. And what we've done, our scientific team, is identified, and you can relate to this, I think, there's chemistry in cannabis, different cannabinoids as an example, and they have different active ingredients that engage our bodies differently. They have different purposes. Well, the same thing for all botanicals. There's certain fractions of the chemistry in an oil extract that do specific things. And our team, as smart as they are, came up with, identified a couple of the fractions in a time that did a very good job at repelling these insects. So you want to knock down any kind of pest, and you want to prevent them from reinfesting the plant. And that's the purpose of the thyme, and it works fantastically. So there's specific fractions, and that's the mode of action, or the real special aspect of this MBPI product. And we concentrate it, carry it in a corn oil. We have a little surfactant in there for spreading purposes. No big deal there, pretty straightforward. And because we've concentrated just the active ingredients of this thyme extract, once we dilute it down in the final application dilution, it persists and does a very good job at keeping the pests off that you knock down. And I'll tell you, just to finish on, I definitely want to hear your feedback on it. We validate the technology. That's the other point. That's the other part that we do very well. We have farms that we use for agronomic purposes, and we did 5 grows or studies back to back where we had 8 different treatment groups, including a control, all the industry standards, including some chemistry. We used this technology, and we had a control, 50 plants per treatment group, and we infested the entire greenhouse with spider mites as an example. And then we would do treatments across recommended applications and basically count bugs and see how much are left. And what we'd find is on the MBPI treated plants, there would basically be no insects, and a plant right next to it completely infested, checkerboarded through a randomized design throughout the entire greenhouse. And we could repeat that 5 times in a row. And after the 5th time, I'm like, man, this technology works. The data shows that it works. Interested in oils or not, this works. And it works because of the way we were thinking about the thyme, which is super cool. So it's...
How does one go about acquiring spider mites? Do you just go to the store and buy strawberry plants, or?
That's a good question. So we actually work with some labs that grow these bugs for those purposes, and we grabbed them, and then we infected some cannabis plants in the greenhouse and used those as host plants for these insects to branch off throughout the whole greenhouse. So we spread these host plants through the whole greenhouse until we had a pure infection across the whole thing. And so they just grabbed them that way.
We had a question from chat on what you were talking about, and says, I'd love to hear more about what led Collin to look at thyme specifically for your IPM spray. Did you look at any other plants as well?
So we looked at other botanicals. The thyme ended up being something that I thought was uber effective. There was a couple of very compelling fractions in the thyme extract that I believed in. That worked really well. That was scientifically backed, that we could prove and that we could extract and concentrate and get reliably and consistency and consistently. So there's a lot of pieces that go together, got a lot of factors that go together when you're trying to make technology. And I'll tell you what, you can make some pretty cool technologies, but you can't always make pretty cool technologies at scale. And so the availability and all these details and the reliable sources of some of your products or the ingredients of your products have to be consistent, and you have to again rely on them. You know, one of the things I'll say, this is an example of this particular product is not organically certified yet. I'd have to change an ingredient. What do you think that ingredient is, Steve? I'll tell you, the corn oil. And I didn't think about this, but when I say this, you'll be like, oh yeah. And after I heard that, I was like, duh. You know, the corn oil is just as carrier, like I said, nothing special. But you cannot really buy reliably, and this is by my sourcing team, reliably, consistently, high quality, non-GMO corn oil. It's all GMO. There are some sources, but the volume and the economics and these details, with all that said, we decided to go with a reliable source, and we're going to scale to more organic source. And as soon as we get that organic source that we can reliably acquire and use, we'll move that way. So it's natural. I'll stand behind it. The organic certification is what it is. And that's it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. It works so good. You know, I tell you what, we're still working on some of the microbial products, and I keep on sending them back to the drawing board because I just don't think that they're up to par. And this came out first, so this product came out first. There's a huge demand for it. We launched a little over a month ago, and we sold out. We made a bunch of it. We sold out our first week, and so it's really fascinating. It's clean. It's easy. You know, we don't recommend for application, Steve. We don't recommend using oils on flour. I don't believe in it personally. And so we didn't put that on the label. I'll tell you why. Because if you add oils or any of those things late in the season and you want to extract that flour, there's a chance oils will extract with it. I've had that experience with people that were burning sulfur late into the season, and sulfur burning works good, but you don't want to extract any of that because it tastes like rotten eggs. And I had a really dear friend that had a big grow in Washington State, and he was just buying trim and blowing that. And I tell you what, he got that product into the market before he realized that it tasted like rotten eggs because of the sulfur burning, and he had to recall a bunch of cartridges. It was really painful for him. And so it's the same thing with Neem. You hear that, you know, you don't want your plants or your oils tasting like Neem. But if you can apply it during veg, hardened clones through veg in the first couple of weeks in bloom, you can knock down and start your more vigorous bloom flower cycle clean. And IPM is a probability game. You want to keep all those pests down until you harvest, and we believe in that. Along with using beneficial insects further on in the flowering cycle, you're going to see awesome results.
Well, not to mention all the recalls with the neem oil recently. It was the state of Oregon found basically most of the popular neem oils and cold pressed neem oils were in direct violation of USDA rules with unlisted ingredients. So, and I'll be honest with you, if I had to take a stab and guess where those unlisted ingredients came from, I bet you they probably aren't intentionally added by the neem company or the neem oil company. They're probably just legit squishing the stuff they get. But I bet you that stuff that's being used for IPM on the neem trees in India or wherever they're sourcing this stuff from, and then it's ending up in the, after post-processing being, a residual.
There's two things that I've heard. I'll just share this with you. And I know another company that got in some issue with that also, and it wasn't necessarily intentional. And so there's that. But some of these companies use third-party manufacturers for their mixing. They just don't invest in that equipment, or they don't have the expertise, so they use someone else. But what happens, if you have to be really diligent with those partners, because they're mixing all sorts of stuff in their vessels. And sometimes they're mixing your products in those vessels, but they're mixing chemicals in those vessels before that, and they won't get washed out good. And a company was doing that, and they got tested for some pretty bad chemicals in the product, and it was because of their third-party processing that they were outsourcing. So that, from what you said, absolutely, I believe that. And then in that processing, it can happen also. And so you have to be diligent, man.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, especially anytime you're making either an extract product or I'm sure also with your microbial products, you have to be super careful about cleaning your stuff between runs and, designing machines that can be dismantled and cleaned in an easy way, so that employees actually do it and don't sign off on it without doing it.
It's a huge challenge. It's 95% of what we do in the back is aseptic sterile technique. And it is such a challenge with our microbial product and with these other products. I mean, that's what we do. A microbiologist, more than anything else, is a clean freak. And they have all the methods in the world to keep it clean. It's still not easy because, there's things like air and wind and water. And, you think about using even city water sources. I measure the city water source coming into the building just because we can. And it has some days high microbial concentrations, and it varies. And I'll even run it through a molecular pipeline. And there's different communities of microbes at different concentrations that come through at different times in the growing season, at different times of the year. And so there's seasonal effects of contamination, water and air contamination, especially this time of year, spring through fall, where it's just nothing but challenges when you're trying to keep a sterile environment.
I know when I was up by your way working with the aquaponic source, we used to test people's water all the time up in northern Colorado, and constantly they were switching reservoirs between where they were sourcing the water, and you'd have a swing of like a full pH point over the course of like from morning to afternoon and all kinds of crazy stuff. And people all of a sudden are having these pH shock on their fish or their plants or whatever else, and it's all because they switch reservoirs. And for drinking water, going from an 7.8 or 8.2 down to a 7.2 or even a 6.8 is no big deal. But if you're supplying it for living organisms, that's a huge issue, and really going to screw up your chemistry quite extensively.
Yeah, you got that right. No doubt about it, man. And, if you don't know what you don't know, luckily, I know those things as a microbiologist, and we went into this maximizing our probability for success. And it's still hard, really difficult. And people, beware. If you think it's easy to manufacture microbial products with consistency, that's the hardest thing. Not only do you have to get something that works really well, and not only do you have to find a microbial formula that scales and is compatible and efficacious across a lot of different environments and has long shelf life and all that stuff that you kind of intuitively think about, but then you have to make it. And making it consistently is just as hard as anything. So, and I like the challenge. Don't get me wrong. I think it's an amazing thing, an amazing challenge, and an amazing impact that our team has on cultivation. Figuring out how to maximize precision and quality in the manufacturing step. Our R&D to our manufacturing, and getting out and engaging with people. I mean, it's just an awesome team, and there's nothing but opportunity and growth. But nothing we do is easy. Not one thing. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome.
So what else do you have in the so we had someone ask in chat, what is the effect on beneficial insects? Should they wait to use it? How long should they wait after application before applying?
That's a great question. That is such a good question. And so we know a little bit. We don't know a lot. I'd like to wait if we possibly can. The thing about beneficial insects is they're more mobile, and so typically they're hopping around, and they can do a better job of avoiding, and they'll avoid a product when you're spraying it on. But if you knock them, I don't think there's a huge hindrance, but I can't tell for sure because we haven't done those studies in particular. What we recommend, I'll just say, is during veg, you have this effect where you can apply it. I don't have any concern about the product making it onto the end flowers because the flowers haven't developed yet. I think there's going to be enough of a residual is the chemical signaling effect from the technology to repel the insects, because I've seen it and it works really good. And it's not magic, it's nature or natural solutions. And so we want multiple applications, one application 4 weeks in a row to make sure we disrupt any life cycle. That's all you really have to do. 4 applications once a week during veg. You can do it, a couple more if you want to. A couple weeks in the bloom, you can do it on the very hardened clones. Wait till they're hardened. I just think it's best practice. And right now, growers are still incorporating their beneficials, but they're carrying the beneficials to a large degree into the flowering cycle. And we're not applying Mammoth Bio Control past a couple weeks in flower. And so there's no issue right there. You know, the only issue I would, hypothesize is if you sprayed your beneficials directly with this technology, they're probably going to get stressed a little bit, to say the least. If they're knocking down the mites, and there's more of a repellent effect than there is. This isn't like a cidal, not a chemical cidal where it's just going to kill. There is definitely a suffocant effect just by the physical nature of the oil, and there's a huge repellent effect, and that's what we want. So it's about repelling and preventing, and this is a preventative straight up. It's an exempt product, meaning that it's natural and considered completely safe by USDA and all agriculture at the federal level and all agriculture departments at the state level. So no issue, but just use best practice.
We had a really good question in chat here. So how do you go about quantifying efficacy for pest management products? I know you touched on it a little bit earlier.
Man, I'll tell you what, it's labor-wise, it's intense. Scientifically, it's so much easier than using biologicals for performance or for nutrient use efficiency or growth, because effectiveness is the first thing you measure with all products. With a Mammoth P product, you had to define effectiveness. What does success look like? And we think success looks like a couple of things. It looks like increased yield, and it looks more so, at least as much so, of increased quality. We want to improve yield and quality. And so how do you measure that? We grow a bunch of plants up. We have a bunch of side-by-side controlled studies. And not only do you have to harvest yield at the end of the growing season, but you have to measure the quality of it. You have to do it in a manner with a lot of samples, so you have a lot of confidence. So that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of investment. And there's different effects or different success rates. We see success across many, many cultivars, but there's going to be some idiosyncrasies across cultivars. I've heard huge increases across some cultivars and not as huge across others. And so there's a lot to dial in for still a long time. For a biocontrol, if you have a target pest, there's a pretty definitive measure. It's either not going to be on that plant or it's going to be laying at the ground dead on that plant if it's actually a cidal product. There's a static or preventative, and there's cidal categories for a pesticide or biocontrol. Cidal, anything that's cidal, is by definition thought to kill. Cide equals kill in microbiology. And so those are typically chemistry products that literally kill bugs. And you can see if you apply a very effective chemistry cidal product on an insect, you can kill it. And if you kill it, you can count it because it's right there. And if you count it, you can measure the effectiveness. So that's easy. The preventative, you still count. It's a little more difficult. I don't want to minimize the amount of labor and science that went into this. We talked about the greenhouse where we infected the whole greenhouse. We had 50 plants per treatment group, and they were randomly assorted through the greenhouse. So we didn't have any spatial bias throughout the greenhouse on maybe insects, were inhabiting a certain part of the greenhouse more than the others. So we did it exactly right. But then we have an army of research associates walking through counting bugs and counting them on plants repeatedly. And so that's a ton of work, but it's pretty definitive work. And you can count a plant with enough labor that has, hundreds or thousands, and a plant that has none. And that's what we found is this pattern is we would find, a Mammoth and BPI treated plant with no infection, literally. And the plant right next to it was covered. And that checkerboard pattern happened throughout the greenhouse. It's just fascinating. And so you just measure stuff. Counting bugs, live and dead bugs, is easy compared to plant physiology and trying to measure plant nutrient uptake across the growing cycle and how that's translating to stacking and more flower development and more trichome development and more cannabinoid, production and more terpene production and which terpene production. There's a lot more interactions on a plant physiology, nutrient use efficiency, performance side than there are in a biocontrol where you're dialing in application rates so you can maximize not only the efficiency and cost for cultivators, but effectiveness. And so you have to measure both of those things. Those are pretty easily experimentally pieced out and measured. And you can do it for other bugs. In early trial, you can even do things in a petri dish just to get early validation. Grow up some bugs in a petri dish or add so many, and you squirt them in there or squirt them in a piece of it and see what happens. As long as they can't escape, they'll either avoid or they'll drop dead, depending on what kind of technology you're validating. And right there, it allows, you still have to do it on the plant, don't get me wrong, but it allows you to form some early hypothesis in a matter of days that will help inform how you think about using technologies, or if you want to take the technologies to that next stage of a trial.
We had another question from chat. It says, when using Mammoth P and watering their garden, do they need to worry about chlorine and chloramine? If so, what do you suggest neutralizing it? Do you suggest, does sodium thiosulfate or potassium thiosulfate affect the Mammoth P at all when used in watering?
Yeah, so those are both good questions. We've covered those across the years. I don't see any significant effects with regular tap water from chloramine, like in Colorado Springs, or this area in Denver or Fort Collins has more of a chlorine disinfectant in the water. Chloramine has a longer residual effect, and chlorine's pretty typical. If you're worried about it, there's a lot of commercial cultivation facilities typically normalize water through RO these days, at least in this part of the world. And I've known a lot of smaller scale home growers that bubble the water so that you can actually volatilize the chlorine. Chlorine volatilizes pretty easily. If you leave it out for 24 hours, most of it will actually leave the water system. Volatilize means it turns into a gas form and just goes into the air or the atmosphere. And that's just what happens with chlorine. We've done a lot of early trials where we actually did dilution and we used real chlorine and we diluted it out to look at the effectiveness of not only tap water, which didn't have an effect, but disinfectants. Because we started getting some real questions from hydroponic growers that were using an H2O2 or a silver nitrate H2O2 or chlorine products in their hydroponic systems, and they wanted to use microbes or Mammoth microbes particularly also. And so what is that effect? We decided to do a dilution study over time, and what we found is, disinfectants kill microbes, and they kill Mammoth microbes also, but not as much as you would think. And if you use some of these disinfectant products at the recommended application rate with Mammoth P microbes at the recommended application rate, at the same time, you're going to get an order of magnitude knockdown of our microbes, which is a lot of microbes, but there's still a bunch in the system that you're applying. If you wait 24 hours between those applications, you're going to get basically no effect because those chemicals, disinfectants, dissipate. If it's a chlorine product, it actually volatilizes in about a 24-hour period. If it's a H2O2, which is hydrogen peroxide, chemical formula for hydrogen peroxide, or a silver nitrate, hydrogen peroxide, what happens is it actually, as soon as any kind of hydrogen peroxide collides with the organic cell, which is plant roots or anything else, it breaks into oxygen and water. And so it only takes that one collision to break down, so it doesn't take long, especially in recirculating or running through plant cells, to break off pretty quickly. If you wait 24 hours with any kind of disinfectant and adding the Mammoth microbes, because the microbes are robust, quite frankly, that's why you can do this with Mammoth microbes, you get no knockdown. And so relating that back to the question, the tap water has such low amounts relatively than would be in these disinfecting scenarios that there's not really an effect. For best practices for using beneficials or microbes in general, which might not have microbes are hard to use in precision agriculture. Let's be frank. They haven't evolved in those environments, and some products have validated or actually evolved their microbes better than others to persist in those harsh, microbially harsh environments. High nutrient concentrations, high osmotic pressure. You're talking about the disinfectants. There's a lot going on that at the micro scale, biology doesn't love. And so what we did is acknowledge that early on in the R&D at the university, and we wanted to evolve the microbe and use microbes that could persist and were very environmentally robust. And what we did was that we ended up weeding out tens of thousands of microbes in a general soil sample, and we just acknowledged or realized or started using the microbes that could persist in those environments, because we knew that only microbes that persisted would be effective and valuable for cultivators.
I'm glad you included the idea of the reverse osmosis, which is really more prevalent. And you brought up that it was hydroponics, because a lot of people, most of the organic folks we know and natural farmers, they don't use RO. But it's
right.
Very nice that you brought that up in your answer. I just wanted to say.
Oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. And the closer you get to soils are buffered, and you don't need to worry about the water, because those soils are not going to change. There's so much stability. The more true soil and organic you get, that the water isn't going to make a difference. It's just necessary for the biology.
Yeah, we recommend Mammoth P all the time for aquaponics facilities, especially commercial ones. It really helps increase the mineralization of phosphorus in aquaponic systems, especially if you throw it in your mineralization tank. We're actually going to get that heavy aeration and that maximum fish waste. It really does an amazing job, and really gives you a lot of extra, phosphorus in particular. But we recommend it across the board, and have been for years on aquaponics. We actually, back when I worked at the aquaponics source, you gave us like a couple gallons of the stuff, and we tested it, and we did even something even including a 1 gallon of a 10-gallon aquarium with goldfish with Mammoth P in it. And the fish lived for 3 months, and they were doing just fine. And we just went, okay, well, they're fine. No one's gonna ever in their right mind do that on a large scale.
Exactly.
So.
What? Doesn't that seem like a decade ago, Steve? And that was just a couple of years ago, man.
I know, man.
Yeah. It's safe for the fish. That's the bottom line.
It's safe for the fish. That is the bottom line.
Yep. So that was one of the things that I always liked about it. It was super safe, and then it does just make a noticeable difference. We tested that in side-by-sides at the lab at Aquaponics Source, and it was one of the few things that we ever tested that was not only fish safe, up to pretty ludicrous levels that anyone would ever consider doing, in a sane world as a consumer, but also really made a big difference in both lettuce and cannabis and other crops as well. So it really is a good thing that, at the very least, to be adding to your mineralization tank, if not your whole system, depending on your gallonage, obviously.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you made. From a research point of view, when I was still back at the university, I wasn't trying to target any one crop. I was trying to develop a very robust microbial formula that had a targeted function and that were free living bacteria, so to speak, that could be applied across many crops. Because when I was at the university, I wasn't thinking about anything other than feeding the world naturally and sustainably. And I was making technologies, and I was thinking about like developing countries who couldn't really feed their people well because of infrastructure and economic limitations. And my idea was I was going to go around and show people how to make their own beneficials that would help liberate the nutrients that are already in the soil, so they could grow their crops and feed their populations and feed their communities. And then these other problems with agriculture systems, in more developed countries, so to speak, where there's so much chemical fertilizer input. So I was trying to reduce that and adding life to those soils, and so we could use life and biology to mine the existing phosphorus, as an example, from those soils that was building up and unavailable, so we could deliver those nutrients to plants naturally. So microbes are so important for everything we do. I think it's interesting thing and just a blessing, quite frankly, to be able to engage as a microbiologist the way I'm engaging now and actually making a difference. I thought about it for a long time at the university. I just wasn't very equipped. I didn't have the knowledge to understand how to do more with what we were doing at the university. And step by step, you know, we took some leaps of faith and we got where we are today. And now, you know, the sky's the limit as far as microbiome research, microbiology. I have some friends that their kids have autism and they're getting older, but they're starting to realize how just manipulating the different microbiome aspects in their guts as humans can help alleviate some of those symptoms and improve some functionality. So I'm absolutely amazed with, and I always have been, the force that guides us all in life, this invisible force, this microbial biology force that apparently controls all of us. I mean, I think to a large degree, we think that microbes control our moods now. They definitely control our health and a healthy, and you kind of are what you eat. If you don't have a healthy microbiome, you're not a healthy person. So super interesting stuff. Same for agriculture, though. You know, plants need their own microbiome as well, just like humans.
What else you got cooking up there? I know you're always working on new things. Do you have anything else you want to talk about at all? I know you're always
Man, I'll tell you what I get excited about, Steve. I get excited about quality. You know, when we were engaging with a lot of farmers, and there's a lot of talk about yield, and it's inherent with this industry as it's emerging. If I engage with growers in Europe or Australia, they're still punching for yield because they're getting paid on yield, just like any farmer, and I get it. But there and here, you know, people are really starting to understand that once you get yield, you know, it's not that special unless you can bring some quality with it. Quality is key. And so I am fascinated with chasing quality and developing some technologies that will allow the plants or trigger the plants to maximize their phenotypic potential towards quality.
awesome.
Which means, you know, flavor, terpene, potency of different cannabinoids, expression of different cannabinoids. I think there's a lot of work we can still do, and there's a lot of unknown. That doesn't happen overnight. That gets to this geeked out level, and that probably gets pretty targeted. Do I think that our technologies that we're trying to work on now will trigger some cultivars the same way? I'm not sure. I wouldn't be completely confident that all plants are going to respond equally, but I do think, Steve, that there's soft chemical stress stimuli that we could probably promote some microbes to do that allow plants to, oh man, I need to make this terpene, or think I need to make this other cannabinoid. And so understanding that takes some real fundamental science, which our team is working on, and then applying it to validate it is the next piece of it. That's a lot of the talks that we have. How do we maximize quality? And I'll tell you, a lot of the growers are using Mammoth now isn't because they're getting increased yield. They got that, but they're getting it because they're selling their whole crop. And this happened just the other day. We're in the grow and they sold the whole thing before it was harvested because it punched their quality up, the phenotypic potential of their strains, which has a lot to do with the genetics, quite frankly, also. So I'm not going to say that you can start with bad genetics and get amazing plants. You have to start with the right genetics. But their plants expressed such flavors and terpenes, they sold the whole thing, you know, right off the top before it harvested weeks out. So kudos to them. And that's why a lot of people are looking at Mammoth now. Of course, they're getting that yield. You know, we see it all the time, but they're getting yield with quality. And I love that part more. As an advocate and fan of cannabis, you know, I can carry a Santa Claus sack full of cannabis on my back. But if it's not something I want to engage in, it's not very valuable to me. But if we have really, really nice strains, that the flavor and the quality that I love. You know, remember when Frenchie was talking about it in Humboldt at the Living Soil Conference. Do you remember what he said? Were you there that night during his talk that evening?
Yep.
It moved me, and because it was exactly the way I felt about it. He's just a huge advocate for the quality and making sure that you are just dialed in on those flavors and that full experience. And he said something that was awesome. You know, he's pretty poetic, or he's French, and so it makes me think. I'm from West Texas, so that French sounds kind of poetic to me, French guys. But what he said was, if you can engage your customer with the quality that moves them, they're going to have to do everything in their means to experience that again. You just set the bar to a new level. And I think that's what's happening in this industry. So to a large degree right now, is the bar is being set, not with how much you can grow, but with the quality that you can put out. And once you experience that, the stuff you're experiencing 5 years ago ain't that. And you don't want to go back to that necessarily. You want what moved you with that new sense. And so I think that was I think that's where everything's going. So you got to focus on quality. What do you think about that, Steve?
I think that you're seeing that especially in the mature markets. You're seeing the move towards quality. I know that I've seen that quite a bit in the more mature markets. I would say in the newer markets, they just want their $100 ounce. Like, people don't give a shit the first year or two of legalization. It takes a while. Your consumer base has to be educated enough to understand why they should buy diamonds and sauce, or why they should pay more for cold pressed rosin, or why they should pay more for cold cured rosin, or what, people don't understand what 2/3 of the stuff in the store is when they first get there. They've never been exposed on even how to smoke it. Imagine if
Right.
you've never even known what dabs are, or never seen a dab rig before. Like, that's intimidating to someone who's used to smoking joints. It's just a foreign experience to them. And I think that this goes back to something that I harp on extensively, which is, what is the number one enemy of our industry? Education. The more education we can put out for people, if you're a dispensary owner, having a space that you can set up for an education space to teach seminars, or to regularly have, different educational events, or bring in experts that can answer questions for people. These are things that are going to go a long way. Visiting elderly homes in particular can be a great way to really get a lot more people on your side for both city council meetings, or to get more people into your dispensary. Again, educating groups of people that aren't educated on cannabis, and going to them at where they congregate is a big way to help kind of educate people on why they should appreciate quality over that $100 ounce, because we don't need to all fight over that race to the bottom. You have Aurora, big giant companies to race to the bottom. We need to focus on quality if you're going to actually stay in the market long term.
Yeah, I think that's well said, and that's exactly how I think I've experienced that also. Once you learn more, you learn more. And over time, that $100 ounce isn't going to be appealing to the masses. And after you experience that next level of quality, that you're going to start looking for it.
Absolutely. So you get a chance to travel and see a bunch of different cannabis markets around the world. What are some of the differences you're seeing from market to market, and between the EU and the US, and some of the other more exotic places you've had the pleasure of visiting? What are some of the maybe bigger differences, or maybe just differences in culture, or maybe things that have stuck out to you in the last few years?
What I'll say is, I think the trend towards more soil and living soil is spreading so fast. Even a couple of years ago, when I was in the UK, it was heavy hydroponics, and people got that quality itch, and they started realizing that more soil and organic additives and microbes will help maximize the plant's ability to develop the terpenes or produce those terpenes. and those other flavors, flavonoids, and the quality, potency even, that changed the way they wanted to experience the plant. Same thing in Australia, same thing to a large degree in Spain, where there's areas of there's a lot of different things going on, quite honestly. There's just groups that are growing, and you know that, and they're growing and they're selling, and they're exporting in the shades of gray market, and the quality isn't the priority for those large bulk growers and exporters of flower. But in the areas where there's actually consumers, the B2C at the clubs in Barcelona, as an example, in Spain, people chase the clubs that have that quality. And that's just the truth. There's folks through Australia that, are growing big. And as the quality becomes more important, they're going to be chasing it. So there's a shift that's happened pretty quick. I'll say I would even say dominant hydroponic, and a lot of that has to do with space and everything else, space limitations, depending on where you are in the UK and other places. Space limitation is a huge challenge in the bigger cities, especially the larger European cities. And you have to make the most of a very small space. I've seen the smallest little tent I've ever seen in my life in Europe, and it was just ridiculous. I don't even think you grow one plant in there, but maybe one little autoflower. And that's why hydroponics were stuck away in different places in little kind of musty basements. But it's changed now where people all want that soil and they all want the microbes more and more. Mammoth is selling great in the UK because it's compatible and you can plug it in, and you get some of those aspects of living soil with the bacteria that are in Mammoth Microbes, as an example, to help stimulate the plant's ability to maximize its phenotypic potential. So it's changed so quick, man. I don't even know what to say, but that chase for quality and I've heard living soil from those markets a lot this year that they weren't talking about it 18 months ago, man, which is very encouraging.
I'd have to admit the quality is getting better in the dispensaries, especially in Washington, as far as concentrates go.
I think that's such a tough market. If you can't distinguish yourself with a quality, you're not going to be able to sell your product because there's so many cultivators and a limited number of retailers. That's the bottleneck. And those retailers control the market. They still make so much money. The prices, I don't think, have dropped at the retail customer, but the cultivators are all begging to get their product on the shelf. And the only way you can distinguish yourself, I think, is with the brand and the quality associated with that brand. And those growers that have done that in Washington are doing just fine.
Yeah, which we've been talking about that for the past few months about craft. You're kind of getting into where you're talking about craft growers and all, where it is a better quality and people will chase that. And that's what we're all hoping for in the long run. There's going to be so much, it's like mids or, stuff that's not quite up to par, like you said, where they're going for the dollar when they're going for quality. But then on the other side, you got the people that want to have the higher quality as well. And so that's why it's going across the board, I think. And yeah, like you said, live soil, that's really become a big thing. Natural farming's going and going, and it just every time you turn around, there's more and more people getting into it.
That's a really interesting point. And they make the analogy with the beer industry. And I'm not a beer drinker. I guess I used to drink when I was a younger guy. And I just had a conversation, though, however, before this, with a lady that does design at New Belgium Brewery, and she's right around the corner. We're in Fort Collins, Colorado. There's a ton of wonderful microbreweries, craft breweries here. And, the beer industry went from the big ones, and then these craft brewers came up in the alcohol industry and just took these big breweries by storm because people started wanting more quality. And I think the same thing is happening. I've heard this before. I'm not actually, this isn't an original thought. This is more of a synthesis of what a lot of people are saying. The craft industry grew up because people wanted more quality. And that same thing, which I think is encouraging, is going to happen in the cannabis industry because it makes a lot of space for craft, smaller grows to value to the market with high quality flower. And I'm not so sure. I mean, I would say that it's very difficult to provide the same kind of quality in a huge scale operation as it is in a smaller craft operation.
Sorry, I couldn't get to my clicker to click my microphone back on.
I was about to step back in, but I was hoping you'd say something, Roger.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's on point. That's on point. That's the whole point. The whole thing is, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure Steve's got some input because he does work with some big grows, and he's trying to strive for that excellent quality in that respect. A lot of it has to do with the cultivars and all that he's choosing to make that happen. But yeah, definitely smaller grows and such like that. I would think, yeah. Again, I think we're going to see changes because everybody's getting smarter. The younger generation's getting so much smarter, and because they've had the internet and the ability to learn things that exponentially that we were never able to learn that fast. It took years, and a lot of time on forums and doing research. But I love the way it's going that way, and the smart people I think are targeting to go that way. Smaller craft grows that are really high quality in order to succeed. Where other people are going to be kind of caught in the middle.
Yeah, it makes sense. What do you think, Steve?
I mean, you're seeing that all the time. Look at all the bigger contests having an amateur and professional, to separate the commercial from the, even just this weekend, this past weekend at the DGC Cup, they had a separate amateur and professional, just to kind of have those two differentiations. You're already seeing the market do it organically and having that delineation, without them even thinking about it in that context. You're seeing it happen, already. I mean, look, like even Emerald Cup last year with the home grow and the professional.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows where it's going to go? But this industry is still moving at a pretty fast pace, and I don't know when it's going to asymptote. I have no idea, but there's going to be a lot of movement. And I was thinking about this, talking to this lady, this designer. I just wanted to kind of engage her and get her thoughts on some design stuff. I do that all the time, just talk to experts to kind of shape my reality better. But one of the things that hit the craft brewery industry, this is something to think about. I hadn't thought about it, where the beer business in particular is tough right now. There's a lot of competition, and it's very hard to be successful. And even the craft brewers, and this is an interesting idea that we might be able to relate to the cannabis industry, are getting completely squeezed right now. And the reason is no one stopped drinking beer, but the Budweisers and Coors have started acquiring a bunch of craft grows or craft breweries, craft brands to house underneath their umbrella. And now they're squeezing out, again, the craft brews with craft brews. And I think that's a very interesting thing to keep your eye on. I relate everything I can to the cannabis industry because there's some huge grow facilities that have pretty deep pockets, and that could be a strategy that they deploy down the road to just get more market share. So how do you survive? I don't know. I don't want to assume anything. I think that you survive by distinguishing yourself as a brand, and you distinguish yourself with the highest possible quality that people demand. That'll keep you alive forever.
Oh yeah.
Very true, very true. Because it seems like even in all businesses, it seems like if you find that niche, right, you stay small and find that niche market, you can really survive. If you try and stay in the middle with the rest of them, you're gonna really have a hard time to survive.
Yeah, that's right. I read a lot of business books now because I'm not a business guy, and so I'm giving myself an education with experiencing Mammoth Microbes grow and just like everything else, trying to treat it pretty academically. And there's this thing called it's in good to great. It's this hedgehog concept, which basically all it means is identify the thing that you do that you can do better than anything else and better than anyone else, and that's you, and do that. Don't do everything. Don't do everything that you're not, because you're not going to do it better than your competition. But if you can identify what you do wonderfully, and no one will be able to do that better than you survive. You actually thrive with that concept. So less is more, and focus is key.
Yeah, consistency.
Here,
Consistency. That, I mean, so many people don't follow through with things and just simply call people back when it comes to businesses.
There's a ton of opportunity.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, in this industry and others, you know, there's just some simple business acumen that as we learn will grow, and professionalism, and as people come in, you know, the most impressed I am right now is if I have a conversation with someone at a trade show and they email me acknowledging that and thanking me for their time that Monday. I'm like, wow. That's like, wow, that guy's a professional. And I want to engage with little tactics like that are simple. But if you just think about it, and that's all about acknowledgement and having a process that you'll honor, and doing that, that'll get you in the right direction. Little things, little steps that go a long way. That's just a weird example, but I think
that's a super good example, like especially for people that are looking to get into this industry. So many people are like, how do I get in? How do I make any connection? How do I do this? You know, go and make connections, get out in the industry, start talking to people, figure out what they're doing and why they're doing it. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
There's a lot of room to distinguish yourself as an individual. And I'll tell you what, people, you talk about quality of product. What about quality of professionalism? And I mean, you can come in as a professional. You have to have the right skill set for the right role and all that stuff. That doesn't go around. But that, if you're dedicated to professionalism, you can probably find an opportunity in this industry. And I think it's gotten very professional. I'm not trying to say that it hasn't. I've seen this evolve, and I'm still working on my professionalism to a large degree. But all I'm saying is, if you're very good at something and you can provide value, there's going to be a home for you somewhere.
That's a very good point too, and especially with the hemp industry going nuts right now. There was enough, because cannabis still is illegal in many states, but the hemp production is now opening up opportunities, and that would still fit right along the line of doing high quality, you know, because of the different ways, whether you're doing extractions or now they're coming up with these smokable CBD autoflowers that have terpene levels and they taste great, like really good pot, you know. And the industry's open up every day. Every day there's something new coming up that allows us to take and maybe go down and make a different choice that could allow us to thrive. So yeah.
Absolutely. So for the handful of people that live under a rock, what is Mammoth P?
What is Mammoth P? Mammoth P is a liquid organic microbial soil additive. These microbes act as a catalyst to maximize plant phosphorus availability, so your plants can significantly take up more phosphorus. Phosphorus is critical for a lot of things in plant physiology. And what we know is growers that add Mammoth P into their grow are able to maximize not only their plant health, but their plant development. And we see not only increases in yield, but also increases in quality across many cultivars. Simple, easy to use, 0.6 mils per gallon, 0.16 mils per liter if you don't use the US metric or the US measuring system, which is everybody besides us. And you just run it into your existing fertigation feeding regime without changing anything else. You just mix it in and roll it in. I like to sit in once a week or twice a week, get it to the roots interact and the microbes interact with the roots and bring that nature and that natural interaction to agriculture.
I love you said fertigation. I just had to throw that in there. Most people don't use that word or know that word. You know, and I love that. That's something we came up, well, not necessarily came up with, but Clemson and, you know, over here in the Southeast, we've been working on fertigation for quite some time. So
yeah, that's right. Irrigation's water, fertigation is with nutrients, fertilizer. Nice, thank you.
Is there any other anything else you want to drop on us? I know we've. Oh, go ahead, Marty.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say I got here late, so I don't know if you guys talked about this or not. But your episode before was when you came on before was one of my favorites because you talked about your process for breeding microbes over generations in order to sort of get the super microbes, if you will. And
Yeah.
so I was just curious if you had developed that or changed that at all since the last time you were on, or have you found it to be a pretty consistent process that you didn't have to adjust much more?
Got it. I appreciate that. So, we have a directed selection approach where we actually naturally evolve microbes for a specific function. It's kind of like a plant breeding approach. We'll get a bunch of diversity and we'll be able to train microbes to perform something, to do something better. That was the case for Mammoth P. We trained those microbes to cycle phosphorus to a higher level while in an environmentally selective environment, weed out the microbes that wouldn't persist in typical agriculture hydroponic environments. The only thing that we changed, we still use that platform, but we choose different traits. When you think about a plant trait of size or whatever, we think about traits for microbes as nutrient cycling. And so we could target micronutrients, or we could target nitrogen, or we could target potassium or calcium. And so we're working on targeting other traits and nurturing those traits, the ability to solubilize or cycle, mineralize those specific nutrients, again, targeted function with different microbial consortia. And it's high throughput. It's not necessarily easy. We're pretty excited about the technologies we have on deck as far as those performance technologies, maximizing nutrient use efficiency. And we should have another technology out in the near term on that performance side. We're also avidly looking for more technologies on the biocontrol side, because I just think there's a need right now to make sure you have the right solutions to mitigate pests. Pests are just coming. You have to have maximum nutrient use efficiency for sure. But I'll tell you what, if you have an infestation or you have some pest pressure, you have to have a solution for that, or your crop is gone. I think of prevention or protection as the new cure, and that's why we have a solution on a suite of solutions that you should adopt in an integrated pest management practice to maintain the value of your crop. So this is our first product, Mammoth Bio Control. It's a different suite of products. I'm actually looking at some microbial solutions also to mitigate pests. We'll probably look at some other natural extract byproduct solutions as well that might not have living microbes, but microbial produced bio properties that repel or significantly decline different pest pressures. I think our next target's going to be a couple different things on that line. And I definitely want to focus on the macros and the micros on the performance line. That would be, in a perfect world, we have a suite of solutions, not only to maximize your plant's ability to take up any nutrient you want naturally, but also to prevent the suite of pests that you might experience in different regions. And we know the main culprits. Typically, you can list them pretty simply. And we're gonna definitely have one or two solutions for each of them. And sometimes we really want to rotate, especially on that preventative side.
We're glad you're on our side, because I think we can all agree that you have found your niche and what you do really well. And we're glad you keep thinking of new ways to make it better.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Focus is key, and life's hard enough without focus. At least we have that.
That's really awesome.
So, sorry, Steve.
Good.
I was wondering, so is this DEM Pure certified then to use? Has that been asked at all yet?
There's no, I don't know. I don't think it works like that right now.
Okay. I was just curious if there was like how any of that worked or what was with that. Standing on that.
I don't know. I'd love to get my hands on it and try it in some aquaponics though, and see how it goes. I haven't had a chance to actually try the bio control yet, so I will have to give it a whirl.
Yeah, well, you know where I am. I can hook you.
Yeah, you got
I know. Well, that's really awesome. So is there anything else you want to share with us? That I know you're a very busy man. I don't want to tie up your whole evening.
Have we been talking for over an hour? We've been talking for a long time. I think I don't have anything else to say. Gosh, forbid if I did.
You always you really have you picked up anything in you know, I always see you at different microbial panels and different things like that. The different things. Usually when I pop in on one of your talks, you're on some panel with a couple of other people. What are some of the other things that you've maybe gotten insight from that's maybe you know, given you some direction or different things over the last year or two?
And I'll tell you what, I do a lot of microbe stuff. I've been geeking out on business. And so that's just a whole different topic that I don't want to get into. I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. I'm trying to engage with people smarter than me, just like I always have, to get smarter. Y'all are some of those people. We're going to go to Indo Expo in Portland. I'll just plug that. And giving a talk. And then we're on a panel with a couple really smart guys. And so that will be a lot of fun. Jeff Lowenfeld is one of those guys. And he writes all those books. And he does that so well. Then we have another gentleman that's just amazing. He's a horticulturalist from New England. Dude's smart. And he geeks out on experimental design. So we have Jeff, the author and microbe advocate. We have me that, you know, kind of sits there and shakes his head, and sometimes I say something scientific, and then we have our other guest. It's amazing. So without ruining it, come see that panel. It's going to be amazing, and we're going to have a lot of fun at Indo Expo.
That's in August, first part of August.
Yeah, that's coming up like in a week.
Yeah, in Portland, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Have fun. Are you going?
I might be there. Actually, I was just talking to one of my friends from Colorado today. I was like, you should fly out to it. I'll totally meet you down there. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably go. I'm only like 6 hours away, 5-6 hours.
Right.
I got
Let me know if you go.
I got free tickets to go, but couldn't make it work on the schedule. Got too much going on. If I was gonna go do anything in the first week of August, if I could get away from the farm, it'd be Chris Trump's class. But we're about to bring the farm online in the next 2 weeks, so, or at least.
So you don't have anything going on, huh, Steve?
No, I think I'm
4/7 work.
I'm ball and chained to this facility here until it's up and running.
Awesome.
So, well, I appreciate your time. I don't want to tie up your whole evening. It's been you know, quite a bit. So thanks a lot for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody how to find you and how they can find your products?
Absolutely. So obviously you can go to www.Mammoth Microbes. You can hook up with us at Mammoth Microbes on Instagram. That's an awesome channel to get to us. You can get up with me directly, Collin W. Bell, Colin with one L, W. Bell, on Instagram. And I'll hook up with you directly. Come see us at the show in Indo Expo. Contact info at Mammoth Microbes. There's so many ways to get in touch with us. It's not even funny. So reach out to us. We love to talk to people. And if we can bring you value, we'll do our best to do it.
That's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to talk with you, for sure.
Likewise. Thank you very much for your support. As always, please let me know if I can do anything to support you. And we will be seeing each other as we do.
Yeah, you and I see each other every 2 or 3 months. Just
That's right.
Being at the same events all the time.
I know. What do you do? It's fun. You know what? We should all be grateful. We have a great life. I'll tell you what. More than anything else, I like to practice gratitude more than ever. You know what we're doing today? We're breathing. We're mobile. There's so many things to be grateful for, and we're in this wonderful path and this wonderful journey. There's just everything to be grateful for. Nothing's easy. I'm not looking for easy. I'm looking for fulfillment today. And fulfillment is engaging with wonderful people like you. It's figuring out how we can be of service to people and bring them value. And there's nothing that matters besides that. And all good comes in that state of mind. And I've just realized it. And so every morning wake up, I want to be grateful and I want to try and be of service and help people. And, why wouldn't you? One of these days, we might not have that opportunity. And so I love looking at the journey. I love the journey. And I guess this last thing is that's what it's all about. It's about the journey. Every day I'm grateful for this journey. I just think, when you told me the story, I remember when we first talked, Steve, I don't remember exactly when, but it was like 4 years ago, but it felt like literally 2 decades ago. Things have happened. So many things have happened in our lives since then, and more good things to come. So not to get on that, but I tell you, it's important to say it sometimes. So thank you very much. It's been a wonderful way to spend an evening as far as I'm concerned.
Heck yeah.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate your
Love
time.
your spirit. Absolutely. Thank you. That was very nice to end on. Thank you.
You're always welcome, and we'll make sure we get his links in the description here. Make it easy for anyone listening to the audio version to connect on there as well.
Awesome. All right.
Oh, one last question. So, what is the rare color combos for your hats? Because I know some of them are rare and some of them aren't. What are the rare ones?
I'd have to go back and look. I made such a limited edition. The green's probably super rare. Green on green and green on silver, silver on green. If you talk about the logo being the first, green on green, silver on green, those are super rare. I have some whites, the black, the gold on black. Oh, people like those.
I used to have the gold on gray.
Oh, really? That's a super rare one, man.
Yeah, well, I think somebody walked off with it. It's probably what happened. Either that or I lost it. I don't know.
There's one Hawaiian one in the world, only one, and I know he has it. He's in Denver, unless I'm sure he still has it. So I guess super rare, black on black. That's Vaden, our guy in LA. That's LA, and we have black on black with the white, and black on black with the black. I end up wearing those now. I don't know why. I just go through, choose different.
I like it.
We'll hook you up.
Awesome. I just like it's funny because sometimes people talk about like the rarity of your hats sometimes in passing and the different hats. That would be something funny to bring up.
We're all gonna email you tomorrow to get a hat.
Hey, you know what? Get in line. I get a lot of those emails.
I don't know like what it was, but I think I remember it was really early on when Mammoth P first came out and hit the grow shop over here, and I think they had them. They had like 10 of them, and I just happened to be there when they had them. So and then when I went back to get another one, they're like, no, we don't, we don't. They're gone before they even get to the shelf. All the staff was taking them, so they're the high demand hats for sure.
That's true. You gotta be there when they show up because the staffers love the hats too. They have first pick. What can you say? It's just,
of course they should. I mean,
they should. That's right.
I just walked into it. That's what happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think y'all all know a guy that probably has.
We should email him. Thank him for coming on the show.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, you're welcome anytime, and let us know when you bring out your next mineral product. I'll be happy to test it in aquaponics. And again, I highly recommend your Mammoth P for anyone listening in aquaponic vegetable or cannabis grower.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Yep. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Collin.
See you later.
Cheers. Awesome. That was a lot of fun. Always good to have Collin on. Great guest.
Yeah, I love the fact that I like when we have a guest like Collin that's so enjoyable and has such a great product, and we're having him like for the third or fourth time on the show, and you really get a good rapport going. I love it too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I hang out with Collin every time I get a chance to. Again, like we were just joking about, Collin and I never plan on hanging out. We just suddenly realize we're in the same city because of Instagram or whatever. And we're like, hey, let's hang out. It's kind of funny. So Marty, what have you been up to in your garden? You've been a busy bee.
Oh, well, I'm a little jealous of my fish right now because they all get to live at the new place a week longer than I do. So they all got moved over there. They're chilling in the shade under the trees right now, and it's 100 degrees outside. And I just went and checked on them this evening. And so basically we're just waiting for, paperwork to get done and closing shit to happen. But the owners of the new place are moving out, starting to move out on Friday. Should be done by Sunday. So we'll be able to probably start on Monday or Tuesday. Depends on how long they take to get cleanup done. But I just decided, fuck it, we're gonna hire movers. So we've got everything. Well, we don't have everything. We still got a shitload of packing to do, but we'll have everything packed up in boxes. We have a lot of stuff done, but I've moved pretty much all the aquaponic systems over there. I set up one of them with all the fish in it, just to. And the elderberry survived. My buddy Cody came through. Shout out to Cody. He showed up with a gorilla cart in a 4-wheeler to tow it with, and so we were able to slide the whole media bed with the two of us off onto this gorilla cart, which just happened to be like the perfect height. And so we didn't have to really do anything to it. We just disconnected the media bed from the system. I had to cut the top off, so about the top. I harvested a bunch of berries off of it that were already ripe, so that was lucky. But I did have to take probably about 3 feet or so, just so that I could get it out of the gazebo without tilting it so much that the media would fall out. So that was kind of fun, kind of an adventure. But they're all moved over there, and appreciate the new owners letting us get all that stuff moved ahead of time, so it was out of the way and we didn't have to worry about it. But yeah, so the fish right now in the elderberry and the grape and a couple of tomatoes and everything already got moved over there. I have one system here, the salad bar out front. I still have to move that this weekend. And then next Thursday, I should be over at the new house for the podcast next week. So that will be fun.
Yeah, and we're planning something in October.
Oh yeah, and so from there, Steve and I are going to do a 4-day version of our class which will be an on-site there at the new place, where we'll be, definitely have the nursery online. So we'll be covering a lot of cloning, and I'll probably have somewhere around 30 or so moms by then that we'll be taking cuts off of in production, so that we can kind of take a look at a cloning operation and hopefully have the flower room set up. I mean, that'll give me some time to get a lot of that stuff together. And so it's there's 11.5 acres out there, so there's lots of room, and a huge shop. Basically a 2-car garage will be the flower room, and then the veg room is a big shop next door to that. So it's got a big high bay shop. So there's a lot of room, a lot of stuff that we'll be able to cover that we couldn't cover just out of my garage before. Had everything in it, just a portion of my garage really. So excited to be able to just spread out, grow outdoors again. So we'll have outdoor systems. We might even have the light deck installed before then. Got a place where they used to have a single wide trailer. It already has power and water and everything hooked up there. So just got to get it cleared out, get the rest of the trailer cleared out, and start setting up the light deck greenhouse. Already clear out some trees. It's a little thick. There's quite a few oaks through there, but I mean, there's so much there. We'll be talking about. We'll be doing ferments. There's apples, plums, cherries, numerous flowers. There's horsetail. In the springtime, there's morels, different mushrooms. We'll obviously be able to collect some IMO nearby. So we have a lot of different things that we can cover that we couldn't cover before. So it's exciting to be able to branch out into those different things and offer a longer class that will be more complete. I know Steve has a lot more content. We always struggle to get it our normal online class down to 2 days, and always feels like we're skimming through parts of it at least. And so stretching it out to 4. I know you did one with Josh. I don't know if you want to talk about some of the stuff you guys did there.
Yeah, well, so in this version, and in the new class, we're gonna. I've been taking tons of build pictures of this new commercial build, doing in Oklahoma. We'll have, I'll take pictures and stuff. We may or may not have access to cameras that'll be here. I gotta figure that out. I'm hoping to. But either way, we'll have some, fresh pictures and video. Have a commercial operation and, pictures from the build and everything else. And then we'll do a bunch of stuff at Marty's and, we'll get into a lot of stuff. I've also been taking a lot of pictures of different insects we've been running into in the outdoor as well out here, as far as, different learning about different pests, different beneficials such as wheel bugs. Learned what a wheel bug was this week. That was kind of cool. Never seen one of those before. Those guys are pretty gnarly, but good to have in your garden. But yeah, it's just been we'll have a lot of cool content, a lot more in depth on a lot of different things. I've got a lot more progress on my book as well. So hopefully, maybe we'll get it done by October. I'll get it done by October. No promises, but looking to have it out by the end of the year. So yeah, it'll be
Good for you, Steve. Good for you.
It'll be a really cool class, and we'll get a lot of cool content. I know I've been taking a lot more pictures with my any insect I come across. I've been photographing with the microscope and everything, and cataloging a lot of stuff, and just really trying to get a lot more content, lined up to really kind of change the quality of the class into being much more of a book quality. So yeah, sounds exciting, Marty.
Yeah, it is. It's, obviously it's a long time coming. It's been, I think, a little over 2 years now since we were supposed to move the first time, and so it's it was just hitting me when we were moving everything that, because I was like, oh man, I gotta set up these systems outside, and I was thinking about setting them up for the grapes and for the tomatoes and for everything else, and I'm like, oh shit, I can put cannabis back in these things now. Like, I gotta figure out how I can build some more, because I don't want to take the grapes or the elderberries out. So we'll be expanding on that. But just being able to grow outside again is going to be, such a nice luxury that I haven't been able to do here for a while, and obviously had a lot of fun and a lot of success doing here. So it's going to be interesting, and I'm excited to do the light dep. I know everybody's everybody's really enjoying that. A lot of my friends have done them. Obviously it's not anything new. They've been going on down in Humboldt for a while, and so I think it's it's about the only way to do it. When you talk to growers that have, whether were pure indoor growers or pure outdoor growers before, and then they do a light dep, they're all like, yeah, I'd never not do a light dep again. Basically, like, they might still do an indoor or still do an outdoor because they enjoy it or like it, but nobody's like, man, I really regret putting in this light dep. I think I should have just stuck with outdoor or stuck with indoor. Like, you never hear that. Never happens. They're all like, I can't believe I didn't do this 5 years ago. Like, it's basically the same reaction all the time across the board. So I'm pretty well sold on it, and working on a little design for an aquaponic setup. So yeah, it's exciting times, and now it just seems like the next, or probably like the last 3 or 4 days have just taken forever to go by, because basically all but like one piece of paperwork is done, and so they can't really move it up any farther than it already has. So now that we know it's going to be, basically Monday or Tuesday of next week, it seems like it's just, keep checking the time. Like, what day is it? Oh crap, it's still today. Just not going by fast enough. But I'm sure it'll it'll work itself out. And like I said, by next week, I should be live from the new house and give you guys a little tour, and it should be lots of fun.
You could always just time travel with edibles,
That's true.
You guys just take a big, fat, strong edible and wake up and, hey, it's Monday.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have to go to work. So if I didn't, I'd be all over that.
Well, that's awesome. I'm super excited.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, I can't imagine not growing outside. So yeah, I feel for those that cannot grow outside.
Well, just imagine being told you couldn't, like not just like deciding not to, but just being like, no, you can't anymore.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, it was not fun. You can watch my earlier rants on the podcast if you're interested in it, but we covered it in depth multiple times. We'll just put it that way. And so I'm glad to be done with that part of it and move on to do more. And like I said, we have so much more stuff, all these fruit trees that we can make ferments out of. There's already a huge compost pile out there that's already started and ready to go. There's like big smart pots that they use for an outdoor before. So I'm even gonna probably throw some out this year just to flower some out. I know that they'll just go into flower pretty much immediately, but I'm gonna grow some outside just because I can. And so it's gonna be fun. Super excited.
Awesome. Well, what's going on with you, Tara?
Well, I got a mail next to me that's going out.
You got a big ass plant there.
I have a big freaking mail. Look at this thing. It's huge. Look at this. It's a huge tree.
It's just now started showing, huh?
Yeah, so it was supposed to be a female, and it's a male. So I dug it up. I had it. It wasn't a 3x3. I have the big 3x3s with my no-till. This will be my second year in no-till beds. And so this ended up being a male. So I dug it up, and it's in a pot right now. And I took some clones of it. And Josh from Dutch Blooms wants a cut of it because he really likes. He thought he liked to try the hog, maybe breed it with something. So I'm saving. I got some clones over here for him, and I took some other clones here. I'm just playing around with my new cloner. I just put them in yesterday, so I'm gonna check them in a week and see what I got. And so in place of this one, I think I'm gonna move the Jamaica one that I have with the dark stem. I think that's the one I'm gonna move up in its place. And yeah, so that's what I got going on. That's about it.
Cool. What about you, Roger?
Well, I think it's not too much premature, but I'm trying to work out the schedule for this weekend. I'm going to get to go and start the first the look-see and take notes and to develop a hemp farm. And I got a friend of mine. A big shout out to Ryan for asking me and being a fan of the show and a fan of the organic conference. And Josh's and Layton's organic conference that he went up to Maine. And so we were talking, half the day today because he just built a new room for indoor nursery and to do some indoor growing. But he's got several, I think 200 or 300 acres. And of course, they're going to start small, but building some hugel beds. And so I think I'm real excited because I'm going to get to go out to the farm this weekend. And for the first time, and then we're going to start figuring out, how to break it up and do different aspects of because of different kind of grows. Just kind of like similar to what you're doing, Steve, out there, where you're going to have eventually there's going to be some greenhouse, but right now they haven't got that infrastructure, so they're going to start with because we got a much longer grow season here. You can pretty much do 2 complete outdoor grows here a year, just like you can tomatoes or something, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm real excited. Finally, I'm not, well, it's hemp is cannabis, but it's not a get high cannabis, but it's good. Like Collin said, getting to go do something that's going to be really good for people, and you know, finally being able to move out of just doing produce and into the industry is, I'm just excited, very excited. I can't wait to be able to go out there and get into being part of the designing team and all that. I think that's what got me, you know, because then when it's done, it'll be something that, you know, we came up with, you know, because of what we've learned with our network, and just the fact that we, you know, and shifting from hydroponics to doing the indoor room is going to be a dual root zone, so I'm going to get to build my first dual root zone with Ryan out there, and I'm really looking forward to this. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll take some videos and pictures for all of you guys, and you can tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Hey, I love doing that.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad things have finally settled down. When you were talking a while ago, I was saying, you know, when I first met you, you were having a baby, and then basically you've been ranting about that neighbor ever since. So yeah, I'm glad you're getting to move and get that headache. I'm so happy for you that you're finally going to get to go back and have your outdoor grows going. Because I mean, for some reason, I mean, because part of it is you know, you got a lot of pictures, but since the last two and a half years that I've been working with you guys on the show, I've never got to see you do anything outdoors because of your neighbor. So I'm really looking forward to getting to expand yourself again. That's going to be great, man.
Yeah, so some of these, like, you know, a lot of these that I'm going through here, these are a lot of the indoor ones that you know, they're all indoor ever since then. So, you know, there's quite a few of those. But the last outdoor, there's some of the pictures in here. And, and they're just, you know, big great plants. And so I'm excited to pick that up again, because I'd really just gotten started with it. And I feel like I've learned a lot more that I'm going to be able to apply and get even better outdoor, which I already feel like was really good. And so, and then to combine that with the light depth also, I feel like is, just going to kind of be able to, really give it a shot at bringing it all together. So it's going to be great. I'm excited.
Yeah, and I still don't ever get to grow outdoors. So you guys are so lucky, and I can't believe everything's coming up already. Like Chris's class is coming up in a couple of weeks. You got that Indo Expo thing going on. It bums me out so much to be stuck over here when you guys are going to do that stuff. But it's changing. So largely involved to what you guys have been doing, and shoot, I can't think of his name. Steve's really good buddy. Anyway, the founders and the pioneers in the cannabis industry that fought and to get medical marijuana or medical cannabis now, I think we say. And
like Dennis, is that who you're talking about?
Yeah, Dennis Perone. Yeah. Dennis, people like that. And now we're actually seeing it happen in our lifetime. Two things I wanted to see in my lifetime. I wanted to be able to legally grow weed whenever I wanted to and make my own medicine. And I wanted to be able to look at my friends when I was talking to them on the telephone. And here we are. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like Spaceship. I mean, I got to be a kid in the 60s when you saw it in a movie, but I actually lived long enough somehow to make it till the technology got here. Cool. That's me, Steve. That's pretty much it. Same old, other than that.
That's a short bucket list, but I'm glad you got it all crossed off there.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
There you go.
Other than that, I just got a bunch of peppers that are doing great. My tomatoes are on hold because it's too hot, so they're kind of just sitting there. But my peppers have been going nuts. I got this pot here, this 5-gallon pot, and it's loaded with hot banana peppers and bell peppers and stuff like that from my organic natural farming garden that we started this year. Pretty nice, Really, I'll tell you what, I missed growing my own peppers and stuff and having fresh produce to cook with and all, man. I tell you, got some nice stuff. Yeah, that's me.
Nice. Yeah, I've been familiarizing myself with native predator insects and introducing beneficial bugs. We got a border of those in this week, released those. So that was really fun. Learned what wheel bugs are. They're a natural assassin bug. As soon as I saw it, I recognized it was an assassin bug and was like, "Ooh, definitely don't want to pick him up, but definitely is a good guy." But they're huge, man. They're enormous. They're about the size of your thumb. I mean, they're massive insects, but they're good for killing grasshoppers and caterpillars and moths that feed on your stuff and giant beetles. You have these things that are like supersized Japanese beetles, and those wheel bugs seem to really love to feed on those. So those guys are welcome. We just avoid them. They can leave welts for months if you get bit. So you don't want to get bit by those guys. But they absolutely are a cool one. If you haven't looked them up yet, check them out. They're called a wheel bug, especially if you're going anywhere east of the Rockies. Is an insect that I never saw growing in California for sure. That's been interesting, and then just getting everything buttoned up. The nursery is almost getting close to being done. That's been going. If you've seen the pictures of that, you can, I've been posting those on Instagram. The main greenhouse is getting close. The fish house is getting close to being done, so everything's really coming together. Just waiting on the electrical getting put in, the roof getting finished off, and we're getting the plumbing in and getting the beds put in, and yeah. So I think we're about week and a half, 2 weeks away from getting that done, minus the sump house. However long it takes to get finished buttoned up, might take a few more days after that. But it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, I'm looking forward to grinding out a bunch of plants. We got a bunch of moms ready to go, a whole bunch of great genetics, and yeah, just really excited, especially this cherry Sue. We have a super bomb ass cherry Sue cut that's just looking fire. So really looking forward to those. But yeah, we'll have more updates on my Instagram going forward, and yeah, just working, man. It's been really beat, and coming home and blacking out. Sorry about Tuesday. Had a bunch of technical problems. Kind of a janky internet connection. I'm in the process of moving from one spot to another, so I'm in a temporary spot. So, and then I'll be down at the grow, so that'll be a lot of fun. Or not at the grow, but we'll be near the grow anyways. Going forward, so we'll have the studio all set up in the nursery and everything, and do some more live streams in the nursery. At the new nursery, that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, be really, really cool to finally get a little more settled. We'll have a much better internet connection over there, and we'll be able to do some high HD streaming again, and we'll have a lot more video updates. So
yeah, that'll be a lot of fun because you never really had, when you were out in California, you didn't really have a cannabis grow you could share like that. And I'm watching you build it on, I'll catch you on Instagram and on Facebook, and it's going to be, I can't wait to see all the plants in there, because it's going to go by so fast, and all of a sudden it'll be crazy in there. But yeah, that's pretty neat.
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So
I love it. And Tuesday, I got to tell you, I'm kind of glad we didn't have a show. I was wore out, and I had fallen asleep. And I got up and I saw the podcast link, and I clicked on it, and I sat here for a while, and I never did hear anything from you. And I went and laid down and passed back out and went to sleep. So, and I got up, and it looked like Tara had dropped by and left, and just like your avatar was still up there in the middle of the screen. Like it'd been there, but the podcast was open but never on air. It's kind of crazy.
I had problems with there was 3 sessions open at once, and it was just wigging out. We're gonna have to, let me see, this might be the last episode next Tuesday will be the last episode before we have to reconfigure this whole thing and figure out a new way to do it, because they're changing the way that it's hosted. So that's gonna
I can't believe they're doing that. Yeah, that kind of came on quick, didn't it? I mean,
yep.
Well, they've been talking about it for a long time. They just
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be something because it's been a good home for us. Had a lot of fun here.
Still be doing the show and everything. We just got to figure it out. I just have some technical stuff to work out. That's all. But it wouldn't be the first time. They screwed it up before. I remember when we had to use OBS for a while when they had screwed it up the first time. So it's not a big deal. Some people are suggesting Zoom. We'll figure it out. Alrighty. Well, why don't you tell everybody how to find you, Marty?
Oh, so you can find me, I'm Marty Waddell on Facebook. You can find me Aquaponic Cannabis Growers Group. You can hit us up on there. Steve and I are admins. We've got thousands of users now, which is awesome. You get to see lots of different people's builds and stuff, which is great. So definitely come check us out there. I'm AP Meds on Instagram, on YouTube. Yeah, I'm certain that someday soon I will be able to post to those things again. I've been so busy. I haven't posted any content really of anything. So I'll be back to doing that here within a couple of weeks now, which is going to be great. But you can find me on Patreon at AP Meds, and yeah, hit me up. Thanks, guys.
What about you, Roger?
You can find Roger Latewood at Instagram or Facebook, and I want to thank all my new followers. Like, must be some people from the show, because I put it out there, and I had a few new followers this week. Getting ready to start putting some content on Instagram. I've been taking pictures of. I kind of skipped over this, but I've been taking pictures of my nice genetics. Shout out to Malik Spider. All 6 of his. I only did 2 of each one because I didn't want to get overcrowded. So I didn't go ape shit and try to do where I'm really going to pick out a lot for breeding, as much as I just wanted to try it out and see what everything was. So I got the 3 strains that Malik sent me, and Wendy's Tubby Custard times Mango Mountain. Holy crap. I don't know if you're listening out there, Wendy, but those suckers are crazy. You can tell the difference in the root zone because she's doing natural farming and stuff like that, and just the root zone. I've never seen a root zone come out the bottom of a Rockwell cube like that, all feathery and really dense, all kinds of freaking roots and everything. And they're growing. I think the stem, they're like 2 weeks old, and the stem's like 1/8 of an inch or something thick and hard. I mean, these are some really all of Malik's are the same way. It took a little longer for them to catch up because I didn't totally water in everything when I transplanted them into my 6-inch pots. And anyway, I'm getting off track. I'm sorry I forgot to talk about that earlier, but a shout out to Wendy and thanks Steve for handing me some of Melty Head's Citrix, Critical Berry, and Kaya. And dadgummit, I talked to Josh today and I forgot to ask him what that strain was that Kaya gave us at the Regenerative Organic Cannabis Conference. But other than that, you find me Latewood at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com, and we're kicking butt and have a great forum over there. If you want to have some do some grow journals or anything like that, you're welcome to come and join us, and we'll help you out if you need help, or we'll let you teach people. Either way.
Cool. And what about you, Tara?
You can find me at Tara Lee Live on YouTube and on Instagram, and I do lives. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell.
Yeah, I hopped on one recent.
Yes, you did. I throw the invite out to all kinds of people. So who knows who I'm going to have. Potens on there. Dutch Bloom stopped by there. I've had Josh on there from Dragonfly Earth Medicine. So you never know who you're going to get on there. I have another Australian guy that's been hanging out with us lately. And he's been doing some filming of some hemp information over in Australia. So, yeah, that's what we got going on.
Cool. And you can find me at Potent Ponics on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the different Android podcasts, all the different places. And we normally do a show live every Tuesday and Thursday on the Potent Ponics YouTube channel. Sometimes we have technical problems and or delay the show or whatever because of different events. But normally we're on every Tuesday or Thursday. Thanks a lot for listening and or watching, and apologize again for Tuesday. We just had a whole slew of issues on my end on the connection part of it. And yeah, we'll catch you guys again next Tuesday. Cheers.